Welcome back to Bills and Business, Texas Legislative News. I'm your host, Laura Carr, and extremely excited to have our guest today, Representative Claudia Ordaz. Welcome, Rep. Ordaz. Rep. Ordaz has been a key player in the Texas House since 2020. So Rep. Ordaz is a Texas Democrat known for her bipartisan work and her dedication to the Texas economic development and healthcare. She recently returned from Mexico City, where she witnessed the inauguration of Mexico's first female president. And today we'll be discussing the unique opportunities between Texas and a border state, her vision for economic development, and her ability to work across party lines in the legislature.
Yay.
So welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Very
so happy you're doing this.
Thank you.
We need more of these fun conversations. I mean, it could just, you know how the ledge world is. And so we need more of this. So I'm really happy you're doing it.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm so happy you're here and you made it back from all of your travels and Florida just now. So are you okay? Did you make it back all right?
It's like surviving, not thriving. No, just kidding. No, I'm blessed to be back in Texas. It was a whirlwind, no pun intended. I just came back from Florida. My mother is living there part time, and they just suffered through a tremendous storm, another hurricane, just back to back. But everybody's safe and sound. Everybody's good, thankfully. But it was quite scary to kind of see it all. And then,
for sure.
But right before that, it was an incredible trip.
Yes.
In Mexico City. So we're still all just reeling through it. It was an exhausting trip, but it was a very productive one. So I'm so hopeful and excited about the future with Mexico and Texas. Lots of good things.
Excited to chat more about it today with you, and I'm glad your family is okay in Florida. I know, our thoughts and prayers are with everybody there right now. So really do appreciate that. But let's start with your trip to Mexico in general. Like, how was that, seeing first female get inaugurated? It's amazing.
It was the energy. It was incredible. Just so many people there to witness such a historic event. And it's just, hopefully we'll see some of that here in the United States. We're, seeing this trend, the fierce themes at the table. No, but Claudia Sheinbaum and her team are just phenomenal. I mean, she understands Mexico, of course, but she also understands the relationship with Texas and the United States. And her team is just impeccable and phenomenal. And so I've heard her speak several times about just that partnership with Texas. She understands it. She gets it. And so this is just a prime opportunity for Texas. It really is, for us to kind of do that reset that we need when it comes to Mexico and our relationships with them. I mean, we would not be the economic powerhouse today if it were not for Mexico. But TAB, I mean, they just ran us to the ground. I mean, back to back meetings, but great meetings with key stakeholders all across energy, you name it, at the industry, with government leaders, to really just get a good understanding and a forecast of what it's going to look like in the future. So it was great to have the best delegation there. It was close to like 50 of us that went. And so I'm so glad people got to see Mexico in a different light, other than just a border wall, if that makes sense. So it was just so productive. So I'm so thankful to the Texas Association of Business and all the work that they did to bring that delegation there. We had by far the best delegation because we're Texas, of course.
Of course, exactly. So speaking of the border, you represent El Paso, which is a very large and expansive.
We call it God's country.
District. Nice. I need to come down and visit. I really want to come to.
I have to take you to Lucchese
Outlet.
Yes, they are in my district, so I will take you there. And we have the outlet there, so you can get boots at a really good deal.
It's so dangerous for me. That is dangerous, but I love that. So, tell me a little bit more. You have, your home district to Fort Bliss, which is the second largest military base, to New Mexico in the U.S., and so it sits right on the border there. So El Paso is kind of in that unique position as well, being a hub as well. So as far as kind of the key opportunities you see for growth and things for El Paso in the economy over the next few years, what do you see now changing with Texas, Mexico border trade and sitting in that position right on the border?
I think El Paso is just uniquely positioned. I know we joke because, I mean, it feels like we're in another state sometimes because of how far we are. It's like a 9-hour drive, and I've made that drive way too many times with my pups and all, and we it's how it really shows you how vast the state of Texas is. But
Yeah.
no, El Paso is really uniquely positioned. I mean, we're right next to New Mexico, stone throws away from Mexico, and so we call ourselves a borderplex region. We're the sixth largest city in the state of Texas, the 19th in the country. So there's a lot happening in El Paso. But yeah, we're in a different time zone. We have mountains. So,
Yeah.
but other than that, though, we have the second largest port of entry in El Paso, next to Laredo. And so the trade, the relationship with Mexico is vital and it's key. And we just left a transportation hearing right now where we're talking about how vital it is to invest in our infrastructure to ensure that all of these goods are crossing, that we're all getting our avocados, we're all getting our no, but in reality, there's so many goods. Mexico is our number one trade partner. And as I mentioned earlier, we would not be the powerhouse we are today if it were not for Mexico. So, and El Paso's at the center of it. I mean, we're growing at a large pace, like the whole state of Texas. And so we really need to talk about real policy solutions on how we're going to help keep that trade alive and what we're going to be doing to ensure that we're going to make both of our countries prosperous for the future.
Right. And Texas and Mexico have such deep roots tied together culturally, economically. What kind of role do you see as, strengthening that Texas-Mexico relationship?
Yeah. So we just coming exactly from this Mexico City trip, right? There's a lot of opportunity that we can be doing together. And it really starts with just changing the narrative as well. I mean, in my honest opinion, I think it's really short-sighted that we're just so focused on a wall when there's so much more that we can be doing when it comes to our sister in Mexico and what we're going to be doing to ensure that we're thinking about the future of both Texas and Mexico and our kids and so on and so forth. But it really starts with good policy, ensuring that we're providing the right resources in the right place to ensure that goods are crossing faster, people are crossing faster. I mean, it's to me, it's a common sense policy solution on what we can be doing when it comes to energy infrastructure, water infrastructure together, and especially after COVID. I mean, we had so many businesses are still suffering and hurt, and now you're seeing a lot of these companies trying to, we call it nearshoring, friendshoring, trying to bring their companies closer to home. And when you look at the border, it's a prime place for that. Texas is a business-friendly state. We welcome people with open arms, and especially along the border community. When you have these major ports of entry, 6 just in El Paso alone, like I said, the second largest next to Laredo, and so down south. And so there's a lot of opportunity here, and there's a lot of momentum when it comes to this. So I'm hopeful that we're going to continue this conversation in the coming session. I feel very good about it. And TAB being really at the center of it and really helping drive those discussions and that narrative.
I love that. And you mentioned, good policy. So one of those pieces was a bill that you passed last session was the Made in Texas bill. So one fun thing we do is we want to show some clips here of last session. And so your bill, HB 2194, I'm going to play here when it did pass on the floor. Let's take a look.
The chair recognizes Ms. Ordaz to explain the bill.
Mr. Speaker, members, we're going to try to liven up the mood in this chamber. Ladies, what do we say? Howdy!
Is that it? Okay,
That's it.
You're supposed to applause, please.
Okay. Thank you all. Products that are made in Alaska, California, Connecticut, Indiana, Ohio, and Virginia all have labeling standards so citizens know they are buying items that are genuinely made in those states. It's time that we do the same in Texas. This legislation will create a Made in Texas labeling standard when the majority of a product is made in Texas. This bill will allow Texans to easily recognize and support products like our Stetson hats here and our Lucchese boots. And this will bring enthusiasm and excitement for our state products, for our small and large businesses. It will not cost any state funds and will bring even more Texas pride to our products. Members, I move passage.
The question occurs on passing of the from HB 2194. All in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. HB 2194 is passed in engrossment.
I love this clip.
The
I
good
love how you
times.
spiced up. Was this in April of session?
This is when things were a little tense.
Yep.
Yeah, so
I
of
love
course
it.
we go up there in our hats, and that was Doc Anderson's hat and Cecil Bell's. And so, no, you cannot wear hats on the House floor. It is forbidden and is not a thing. And so you just see Hugh just going around like, what is going on? Take those hats off. And we just blamed it on Metcalf. We're like, the chairman said we could do it. And there was like, and getting a scolding. But it's those moments that are just so special. That's the majority of the work that we do in Texas, is this bipartisan fashion. This is what the Texas House of Representatives is. And so for the most part, right? And so it's hard when you see things get kind of bogged down and polarized, topics that can divide us as members. So those are the good times. But that happens a lot, more than you'd think.
Tell us a little bit more about the bill. How does it help Texas businesses? I'm a Texas business as well. Would love to get a Made in Texas label. You would like to get that out.
And that's the whole thing, right? So we have so much pride. And just as I mentioned in there, I mean, all these other states have this labeling standard. I'm like, and when Christina and I were going over this, we're like, how does Texas not have one? That's insane. Yeah. I mean, you know how exciting the Made in the USA one is, but I still think Texas has even more pride than that. And so it's just a good incentive for small businesses, for micro businesses, large businesses, to really take pride in what they're doing, to be a Texan and having the majority of your products made in Texas. So it's exciting, and you hear the governor saying it all the time. It's just a thing. It's made in Texas, so we're very proud of it. So that's one of the fun bills. That was a good one.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What's been the response from small business and manufacturers?
Oh yeah, they're just like ready. They're like, how do we get this? What are we going to do? So it's being deployed by the governor's office, and so under their economic development department, and so businesses are just excited. So I'm really looking forward to how it's all gonna play out. So good bill. I'm very excited about it.
I love it. Yeah, Made in Texas over here. So you have a great reputation of being able to work across party lines. So, as a Democrat in Texas, working with Republicans, having, joint authors, how do you think, you got to this point and do this so well?
Yeah, I mean, the one piece of advice that I was given is like, don't get married to your bills because they're going to die. And the first thing I did was it felt like I was married to these bills. Yeah. So and it's not just me, it's our entire team in our office. So we try to be very strategic about a whole slew of things. Try to think of things that you wouldn't think of, because when we hear, oh, it's a common sense bill, that there's no such thing. And it is very difficult to pass a bill. And being a Democrat too, it could be difficult during these times. So we try our best, and we're really thoughtful on who we ask to be part of it, understanding people's passions and backgrounds, because that's really what it is at the end of the day. It's all about relationships. And I consider us a family in the Texas House. Dysfunctional sometimes. We all have our nuts. All of us. We're all a little crazy, but it is like a big family. And so it's just important to see people beyond just, if you're a Democrat or Republican. We're all we all have lives back home, all have stories to tell. And so it's great to actually get to know my colleagues just aside from politics, right? And so we all have more things in common than you would think. And so especially on bills like Made in Texas, I mean, you saw Chairwoman Button up there with me. I forgot who the joint authors were on that bill with me, but I think the majority of them were Republican. And the same thing on the Senate side, it was Chairman Hughes. And so it was just a really good bill. And even when it comes to women's health care, you can find commonalities. I mean, we passed the only contraception bill last legislative session. That was a very difficult bill to pass. But again, it's just those measures and those policies, good policies that make sense. And so Senator Paxton was a big help for us on the Senate side. And we're so grateful and thankful that that bill is now law today and helping so many women, especially rural women, that they just need their contraception. It was one of those common sense bills, but we do that a lot, and that's one of them. So excited.
I love that. So what advice would you give to, new members coming in on the Democrat side in this really polarized time, right?
Yeah.
For an election year, presidential election year, what advice would you give them?
So every session, we try to get me and a colleague, Republican colleague, we try to get, freshmen together in a bipartisan nature. So last session, it was Shelby Slauson and I, and we just really kind of just sit down and have, get to know people and really just try to talk them through the process, because it's so different the moment you just walk into the building and you're not just on Twitter and, behind a screen, and you're able to see people face to face. And it's like, okay, these people aren't evil. Like, we're just, Yep.
You see them on social media.
Exactly. And so I think once you get into the building, just kind of a lot of that changes. And then you start just figuring out how important it is that we all need each other. I mean, we can't, it can't just be one side or the other. We have to come together. That's the only way we're going to get the business done of the state. And so people coming in will realize that at some point, because you're not going to pass anything, and then you can't deliver anything for your constituents. So it's just, let's put the partisan politics aside, and let's just get to business. And so I think that will be learned for a lot of folks coming in. We all go through it. So
that's a great way to look at it. Working together.
Yeah, we have to.
What are you most excited about for this coming session?
I am very excited about the next session. People are like, "Are you?" Like, they're like, are we excited? I'm like, I'm very excited about next session. We have just, our office has just a lot of momentum coming off from last session, and we're just excited about our legislative agenda, the work that we're doing on economic development. Just when it comes to our workforce development, early childhood education, women's health, there's a lot of momentum that we're still feeling from last session. And yes, there's a lot of politics at play, but I feel very good about it. I know we're going to be strong in the House. And so we'll all come together once we get the speaker politics aside, and we just have to get to work. And I'm thrilled about it. So we'll see how it goes. People are like, really? Are we really excited?
It's been continuing. We've had a 2-year session, it feels.
Exactly.
So very cool.
Yeah.
Long term, what are some of your constituents most excited for you to accomplish here?
Yeah, so back home, it's jobs, workforce development, jobs. So though we are the 6th largest city in the state of Texas, at one point, we were exporting more young talent than any other major city in the nation.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
El Paso,
startling.
Wow.
And so it's not good for us. And so what I kept hearing was a common theme for at least El Paso, of course, like entertainment, quality of life, good schools, and of course, jobs. And so I'm always thinking in looking at the legislature through that lens is how we're going to provide more jobs, for not only Texans, but of course, El Pasoans, to retain as much talent as we possibly can. And so we are a hub for manufacturing. We're number 5 in the nation. And so we're providing a lot of those jobs. Like I was talking earlier about all the friendshoring, nearshoring, a lot of companies moving to Texas, but to El Paso, right? And so that we have a lot of land, it's vast, and then we have an incredible workforce. And so I'm really just centered around that, on how we can ensure that we're tying all of this when it comes to education, like I said, workforce development, and ensuring that we're doing all that we can to create really a quality of life for our constituents in El Paso.
I love that. So many people I know have to move to a larger city to get that opportunity, like myself. So I definitely think there's some beauty in having, it's all here. You can stay here. You don't have to leave your family.
Right. More people are moving here. Austin was like 180 people a day. You can see it. I'm sure it's worse now, but it's a lot. We're happy to take Californians, everybody, just come to Texas.
I love it. Yeah. Everyone's coming. Yeah. It's fun. It's growing. So we were talking about kind of economic opportunity in El Paso. What are your, top priorities in that realm this next session?
Yeah, so we're gosh, it's session already. I'm getting anxiety right now just having this conversation. It's already around the corner, and so no, we've been working this entire year already developing our legislative agenda on what that's going to look like for next session. I told you we're very methodical and thoughtful about what we propose, because we like to work on legislation that we know has a standing chance in passing. And so we focus on good policy. I think we have all the best bills, of course. I'm just kidding. No, but we really do. So we are very excited about our legislative agenda. Of course, it's going to be focused around economic development. I'm so thankful that I'm a vice chair of IRED. It's the International Relations and Economic Development, and I serve with Chairwoman Button. And so we've been having a lot of really great policy discussions during the interim on how we're tying economic development to workforce development and also early childhood education, ECE. And it's all interconnected. And so this is unprecedented, because it's the first time a speaker has put early childhood education part of the interim charges. So we're thrilled. We're so excited that we're now having these discussions, and the advocates in this area are just thrilled. I mean, we had one of the best hearings, just going over so many policy solutions on what we can do in this area, because it's all connected. If we don't have success in ECE, we're not going to have success in the future, and we need to start thinking about that and start bridging that. And so when you think about early childhood education, you don't really think about workforce development, but they go hand in hand. So I'm excited about this area. We're going to do some work in this field. So we're really excited about it, because it's just something that is long overdue. So I'm thankful to the speaker and his leadership for doing that, and Chairwoman Button, she's passionate about these issues. And we're of course going to focus on something in women's health. It's just something that's so important. There's so many women that need the support, especially after the everything that happened in the law of the land and in the state of Texas. So women and families need that support. So we're going to continue doing that, and of course economic development. So we're all excited.
Amazing. I love it. So as a female in the workforce, obviously kind of childcare, those types of issues are very important when it comes to economic opportunity. Is that
absolutely? And that's a great question, because when you look at places like El Paso, and this is happening all across the state of Texas. I mean, we have childcare deserts all across the state of Texas, and especially in El Paso. And we just got some really interesting data as far as what does it look like a post-COVID world. I mean, we're still suffering through it. And when you look at the data, when you're looking at our workforce, I mean, we're struggling. We're seeing more women leaving the workforce. And you look at higher education, more women are now choosing not to continue their studies. And the common theme is lack of childcare. You have a lot of folks, that work odd hours in the healthcare industry. We have a booming healthcare industry in El Paso. People who work, difficult hours between 6 into the evening, and when they're looking for childcare options, there aren't any. So it's just people are just desperate. Families are desperate to find just that support to ensure that their children are going to be taken care of. But unfortunately, it lands a lot on women, and they end up having to stay home. And so it's hurting us. It's becoming just a vicious cycle, one thing after the other, compounding on each other. And when we're looking at trends, they look very dangerous if we don't address this one issue. So we need to talk about after-hour care. We need to address these child care deserts to ensure that we're going to give families the support that they need. And so I just did a tour recently with one of our child care centers. And no joke, they're about to close their doors in about a month because they're just not getting the proper funding. There's a wait list, thousands upon thousands of families that are on this wait list to get their children into these facilities. And these are great centers, amazing centers. They're not daycare centers. I mean, these are, we call early childhood education. These are child care education centers, and it's so disheartening to see that they just don't have the support that they need. I mean, they want to, but it's just their salaries. We need to work on proper salaries. There's a slew of things that we can be doing in this area. And so I know this conversation will continue this session. And I'm just so thankful and grateful that will continue this session.
Grateful you're working on those things, especially for a female in the workforce. So,
that's right.
I love that. So you did mention your relationship with Speaker Phelan, and would you want to elaborate on that? Any predictions of what's going to happen this next session, or want to talk more about the speaker race?
I'm Team Dade. I am very confident Dade is going to be our next speaker. I mean, it's just we need stability in the House. Coming off some and talking to a lot of my colleagues. I mean, I have friends on both sides of the aisle, on the left and the right, and everybody's coming off some difficult primaries. I understand. I get it. It's difficult, but we're all here. We won our races, and now it's time to get to business. And so when you look at Dade, and even just as we were talking earlier about him starting off as a staffer, I mean, he understands the process. He's been through it, and we know what Dade's leadership looks like. If we were to think of what the alternative would be, what is that? It's just unknown. It's scary. We want to be able to ensure that we're all going to be delivering for our districts at the end of the day. And that each member of the House has a place and a role. Whereas the alternative is like there's only one party and that's it. But that's not the way the House works. We all need each other to get business done. And so we are bipartisan at heart, and Dade is all about that. And every member has a key role, and he respects it and understands it, and he understands our districts. That's key. You know, when I talk to him about, he knows that he can list the priorities that are important to El Paso just at the top of his head, and he can do that for every member in the House. And so that says a lot about his leadership. So I don't even think it's just. But I get it. I understand. We're going to have to go through all of this, through all the steps. But at the end of the day, I'm very confident it will be Speaker Phelan.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And we like to keep it fun here. So what is maybe just a fun thing that people don't really know about you that you'd like to share with people?
No. So as I was talking about earlier, I feel like, I have a kind of like a different vibe, in the legislature because of the fact that I started off as a legislative staffer.
That's
and
so cool.
we're just made different. I feel we just have a better understanding of the process, that it's not just me, it's us, it's a team. And so I value, I call Christina, she's my chief. I call her my boss, more my work wife. We're a team in this, and we're in this together. And I served in the Senate, and Dade Phelan was a staffer at the same time with Tommy Williams. So it was just
how cool,
all fun. It's just crazy that we now come full circle, and now we're here. And so
now you're working together.
Now we're working together.
That is going to give you a definite edge. And I know being a staffer, totally different ball game too. I'm sure now your position that you're in. So
absolutely, I'm excited, and it's an honor to serve with Dade Phelan. When we were staffers, and now in the House.
So thank you again for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you. Yeah, like I mentioned, I would love to have you back. Shout yourself out. Where can everyone find you?
I'm on social, so find me on Instagram, Claudia Ordaz for Texas. You can reach out to me, follow me, and when people reach out, I'm always on Instagram, so you can find me there and on Facebook. So please find me.
That sounds great.